Report live from DNC 2012. And we've got the Reverend Jesse Jackson is here with us, and we're going to talk to him in just a second as he's working his way through the crowd. And coming up also in the 4 o'clock hour, Mike Flannery from Fox Chicago will be here, and we're keeping an eye on the Drew Peterson trial, as it is apparently now coming to an end. So hold on one second here. I'm trying to get the attention of the Reverend. Reverend? Starting now?
If not, we're going to have to do a Clint Eastwood. We don't want to interview an empty chair. It did not work well last week.
All right. Wow, this is really a moment. All right. So, Reverend, thank you very much for being with us. Appreciate it.
It's good to be here today. Exciting to be back.
Let's take a look.
North Carolina under these conditions. This is a new South in so many ways. I watched the people matriculate around here. And the civil rights movement's success made for a new South, and it's a good news story.
And you're from North Carolina originally?
Well, Greenville, South Carolina, just down the road. Went to school in Greensboro, North Carolina, just up the road. So this is my home zone.
Yeah.
That was when you were better known for being a football player.
In Anna Matra.
So, all right, now, Reverend, a couple things. One, there was a kerfuffle earlier today about the platform for the Democratic Party, because they took the word God out of the platform. It had existed in 2008, not existing now. As a Reverend, do you think that that's appropriate or inappropriate? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know really what the context of that is. I know that we should be godly in our priority, and we are godly when we defend the poor and deliver the needy, and address those whose backs are against the wall. So I hope that substance remains in the platform as well as in the campaign.
Chicago has become a big issue politically, nationally for the president. The violence in Chicago, the crime in Chicago. Is that appropriate? How should the city respond? It's your hometown.
Well, Chicago is symptomatic of an urban crisis where we need some plan for urban reconstruction. In some communities in Chicago, you've got 40 to 50% unemployment, jobs out, guns and drugs in. That policy has to change. There must be jobs in and guns and drugs out. That requires a comprehensive plan. I've appealed to Governor Quinn to convene a summit meeting with the mayor and the county exec, Frank Winkle, and the Attorney General Madigan, and others. Must have a serious look at causes and cures of an expanding, threatening, violent situation.
The president has got to deal with this on the campaign trail right now. Do you have any advice for him?
No, I think that the good news about the president's record is that he inherited a downward trajectory. We had lost nearly 4 million jobs. Now there's an upward trajectory of adding about 4 million. That's an 8 million job swing. That must continue. The second dimension is, of course, think about auto workers in the south suburbs and in Detroit and in Ohio. The auto industry had virtually closed down. We thought that only the Germans and Japanese could make first-class cars. It's bounced back. We're now running 3 shifts in Illinois and in Ohio and in Iowa, and that's a good thing. I think that his impact, frankly, though talked about in such negative terms, in insurance, so many Americans who are insured today would not have been, who would have lost their lives. So I think his record will be on the line in the campaign, but I think he has a record that he can defend.
And Reverend, when you look at it's hard to believe it's almost been 4 years since that amazing night in Chicago when Mr. Obama was elected. I mean, it was history for all of us. And you've been around for so much and so many important moments in American history. In those 4 years, what do you think has been President Obama's greatest achievement?
Well, number one, his victory was a redemptive moment for America, given the years of demeaning of people of color, black people specifically, the years of demeaning women. For he and Hillary to run such a great race, either one of them could have won. He won in that case. So it was a kind of redemptive. It shook the world. It said, here are American possibilities. The second thing is he inherited this radical downward spiral. Banks were collapsing. We bail out the banks. Now, we bail out the banks, but not linked to lending and reinvestment. That must be the added dimension of it. But while some Americans are beginning to do better and working, there's still the haunting shadow of poverty. 50 million Americans are in poverty. 54 million are food insecure, and 44 million on food stamps. That's real, and I would hope that he would take a hard look even in the campaign. It's just Ohio is such a focus 34 counties in Ohio and Appalachia. Mr. Johnson kicked off the war on poverty in Appalachia. It had two values. One, to address poverty, but secondly, because of Appalachia, it de-racialized the debate. After all, most poor people are not black or brown, who quote-unquote welfare queens. They're white, they're female, they're young. But whether white, black, or brown, hunger hurts, and we're able to wipe out malnutrition. So I think it's a great moment to address, frankly, along with jobs, poverty, and violence.
What do you think the president could have done better in these 4 years, do you think?
I'm not sure. I think that he put forth an ambitious agenda, health care for everybody who needs it. He met unusual levels of obstruction. We never know what the dream would have been had it not been so radically rejected. You're not an American. You're not one of us. You're not a Christian. You're a Muslim. You are not born. You're not legitimate. You're a liar. That was a very toxic set of calculated attacks, mean attacks that has helped to polarize the country. I hope that he will maintain the high ground and not go down to the level of name-calling and demeaning in return, because we deserve issues of substance to be addressed, issues of the plight of the unemployed, of our children, plans to reconstruct urban America, issues that really matter. Good news is 100,000 troops out of Iraq, and bin Laden is no more. One has to say that bin Laden wiping him out was a big deal, because he had represented such a similar fear to America. And pulling out of Iraq was a big deal, because we invested $1 to $3 trillion in Iraq, the wrong target. What could $1 trillion do today? Wipe out every state budget deficit, rehire police, teachers, and firemen. And so I think coming out of Iraq and getting bin Laden and putting our employment back on an upward trajectory were big victories for him.
Do you think there'll be a school strike in Chicago?
Well, I certainly hope not. But if there is, it will dislodge a lot of Chicago and Illinois. That's why I urge Governor Quinn to don't just leave this to quote-unquote the mayor and the school board and the union, because Chicago is in Illinois. And the impact, and I think issues must be addressed other than just salary issues. You look at the gap between an inner city school and DuSable and say Neuqua Valley and Waubanson. We should be really fighting for equal funding, equal access for all of our children that all might have in America, equal opportunity.
All right.
And Reverend, can I ask very quickly before we let you go, our thoughts and prayers continue to be with your son and his recovery. How's he doing?
Well, he is still regaining his strength. And in the further comment, I'll have to wait for he and his doctors to address it, but it's been a painful ordeal for all of us.
Reverend Jackson, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And
thank you, Reverend.
We'll be back in 1 minute. Christina has got 89 WO's traffic and weather first on the 5.
Thank you.